Hello and welcome to this special edition of 101 with Montgomery County Executive Ike Leggett. I'm Lorna Virgili, and thank you for joining us. Mr. Leggett, welcome back. This is our last sit-down interview of 2013. How are you?
I'm very fine. Thank you.
All right, so this is the time of the year where we sit down and take a look at the last year and everything that was accomplished, and perhaps those that were not accomplished, but might be accomplished the following year. So if you were to describe 2013 in just a few words, how would you describe it?
I think I would describe it as a transitional year, transitional in a number of areas, and I think that it fits what I think that we've tried to accomplish over the last few years as we've worked through a very difficult recessionary period. And now we're moving from that, having established foundations for much better times for the county, and I think continued growth in employment, helping our schools, and to build the infrastructure back up.
You started the year with, back in February, with State of the County address. It was held at the Silver Springs Civic Center. It was a packed house that day. And can you give us some highlights of what the county looked like then and what it looks like today?
Well, it's hard to put it just in the last 12 months, but let's go back just in terms of the challenge that we've had, because some of them really overlaps multiple years. For example, we've had to close over $2.7 billion in budgetary gaps. We made some very tough decisions, and those decisions that we made the last few years now I think are beginning to pay off, and people now see the progress that we've made. For example, we made very tough decisions related to our county employees who give so much in terms of their contributions to the county. We are now sitting in a position today where we have the highest financial reserves in the history of the county. We've maintained our AAA bond ratings from Moody's, Standard & Poor's, and Fitch. And that's rather remarkable given the challenge that we faced just a couple of years ago. At the beginning of the year, I predicted to people, I said to them that we were emerging and we could see the benefits. By the end of the year, we started to see those benefits. We see that tax revenues are back up, and in fact, they're running just slightly ahead of our projection. We see that we now have improvements in a variety of things that we've fought for years. For example, transportation, gasoline tax that would give us added revenues to help in major projects in the county. And so that transition now is beginning to emerge in a more favorable way. That does not suggest that there are no challenges ahead, but it's a far better picture that we experienced at the beginning of the year versus toward the end.
Since you mentioned transportation, it's been a huge year for transportation. In this particular room, you celebrated the Montgomery County delegation in Annapolis due to the work during the last legislative session and the fact that we're getting some dollars for future transportation projects in the county. Do you want to go over that? Because it's been one of your main priorities, and it seems like it's finally going to pan out.
Well, it's been a heavy lift, and it's a lonely fight. It was a lonely fight at times because I repeatedly plotted, and pushed every angle that I could in order to get the state to recognize that the Transportation Trust Fund was going broke and we needed to replenish those funds. And the most viable way would be an increase in the gasoline tax. And it was just difficult for people to come to grips with that reality. But ultimately we did, because I said at the time, going back for a number of years, that it would cost us more if we waited. Then secondly, there were a large number of projects that could adversely impact Montgomery County's economic status, i.e. we have 100,000 jobs that are in the pipeline that could be impacted by not being able to deal with the transportation challenges. That our competitors in Northern Virginia had finally put together a transportation package with additional revenues, and that we needed to do likewise. And ultimately, all of the things I said became true. And as a result of that, we are now in a position where we can go forth on a number of projects. Just give an example of what we're talking about now. We're talking about the transit projects, i.e. the Carter City Transit, the Purple Line being able to go forward. We're talking about starting at least the developmental stage of the vehicle rapid transit system. We're talking about a major intersection improvement, an intersection at 270 Watkins Mill. We're talking also about the Brookville bypass. We're talking about another major intersections in road improvement, transit availability in the county, ride-on improvement that we did not have before. At the end of the year, given the increase in the revenues we have now coming to Montgomery County, we're able to start the process of getting those projects completed.
When it comes to ride-on, there's been substantial improvement in the ride-on bus fleet, correct?
That's right. In fact, we'll be announcing later on this year even more improvements for Ride-On. That is to provide even greater service to our customers that would reduce significantly the amount of time. We are going to roll that out a little bit later on in 2014.
Pedestrian safety relates obviously to transportation. It's been one of your top priorities as well. And this year in particular was the 5th anniversary of the ongoing campaign that you have spearheaded here in the county. Recently you launched another campaign, educational campaign regarding pedestrian safety.
Yes.
Lots of improvements, but still we do have a lot of fatalities in the county that need to be addressed.
Well, we've had significant improvement, but anytime we have a fatality, just one, that's one too many. We've had a large number of collisions over the years, and we've reduced that substantially. In the high incident areas that we've targeted, there's been a 43% reduction, for example. But we have to continue to concentrate on what we call the 3 E's, that is enforcement, education, and engineering, to make certain that we continue the momentum that we started some years ago. The challenge is you simply cannot do an educational campaign and stop and forget about it, because you have new people moving in. People sometimes, unfortunately, forget. And so as a result of that, we have to continue that. So we've had ongoing efforts to make certain that we continue to educate people about the challenges. In addition to that, as we go through this process of examining and evaluating the challenges that are out there related to pedestrian safety, we see new areas. For example, we now find that in garages and parking lots, we have large numbers of incidents. So we have targeted a program now to impact garages and parking lots so that people will be aware that the distracted drivers that are out there become even more distracted once you're in a parking lot, because they assume that that's safe. Pedestrians who are walking around, they don't realize that cars are moving to and fro in the parking lots and the garages. So we have a program designed to impact those areas as well.
This year the county went a little greener with a bike share program, sort of an extension from the one in the nation's capital in DC. And what has been your observation? Are people actually riding these bikes?
Oh, they are. But what we have to make certain is that everyone is aware of it, that people are properly informed about the safety challenges, because it's a little bit different when you're utilizing a bike in a suburban area versus the inner city, because we have so much traffic, speeds so much higher in certain places, and so we have to monitor this very carefully. But we're encouraging people to get the proper training to ride the bicycles, especially in these very closed-in routes in the pedestrian and walkable areas that we have around the county. And I think we can do a great job of making sure people are aware and they go out and participate with it. We want them off the street, and we don't want them in as many cars, but hopefully we're using transit, walking, and bicycling.
That is over 50 stations and more than 450 bikes in the
right.
county. All right, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with Montgomery County Executive Ike Leggett. Don't go away.
Montgomery County residents with computers, smartphones, and other electronic devices now have convenient access to a growing variety of information. Visit montgomerycountymd.gov/open to discover how Montgomery County government is more transparent, accessible, and efficient than ever. Access Montgomery links digital services related to accountability, accessibility, and transparency, including MC311 and County Stat performance tracking. You can link to internal audits, spending disclosures, contracts, open solicitations, budgets, and free Wi-Fi locations in the county. Data Montgomery offers such information as access to employee salaries, food safety inspections, cable complaints, and residential and commercial building permits. Engage Montgomery is the new social media platform that encourages public participation on key issues and offers a place where people can share ideas on ways to improve the community. Mobile Montgomery details the county's mobile sites like MC311 and transportation storm operations, library book mine, crime reports, and Ride-On Real Time. The new open government efforts are expected to move Montgomery County towards even greater service improvements and efficiencies. We hope you'll take a look and let us know what you think by calling 240-777-6507 or emailing publicinformation@montgomerycountymd.gov.
Welcome back to this special edition of 101 with Montgomery County Executive Ike Leggett. So we're walking through 2013. It's going to take a long time, more than half an hour, because you've done quite a lot. A lot has been accomplished throughout the year here in Montgomery County. Now, when it comes to economic development, you did take a trip to China with a delegation over 90 members of the community at large. What was accomplished during that trip, and what's forthcoming?
Well, the trip was really divided into two components. One was the sister city relationship that we established with Xi'an in China, as well as an economic development component, whereby we are trying to bring together large numbers of our businesses in Montgomery County with many of the Chinese businesses, so that we can make certain that they have the best opportunity in terms of access and opportunities to deal effectively with some of the businesses that are there. I think both aspects of the trip was extremely well done. My hats off to Lily Chi and the Office of Economic Development, the Office of Community Partnership, for pulling this together. It takes an awful lot of time, energy, and efforts to do so. And we did so with no expense to the county. And people have to recognize that people either paid them for themselves to go, or they had sponsors to foot the bill for them. But as a result of that, we are now in the midst of looking at a number of promising opportunities, as well as signing a number of agreements, especially in biohealth innovation, whereby at least one Chinese entity has already signed the deal with our companies here in Montgomery County, and we're looking at several others. We've had at least 3 follow-up trips from businesses from China here in Montgomery County. So on all fronts, from an economic development standpoint of view, from a sister city culture standpoint of view, I think it was remarkably successful with little or virtually no investment by the citizens and taxpayers of Montgomery County.
2013 was a year that officially the redevelopment of Wheaton started. Costco landed about 475 new jobs in that particular area of town. Let us talk about that a little bit, and also what's for next year. It's White Oak's turn for next year, correct?
Well, let me make sure people understand what we're doing in Wheaton. It's a major redevelopment project that is on the way now. We've engaged the citizens and the businesses of Wheaton. We want to make certain that those businesses that are there, especially the small businesses, can remain there as we go through the process of redevelopment. We don't want to end up happening in Wheaton what transpired in Silver Spring. There are large numbers of small businesses that have been there for many years, never received the proper benefits for their stay in Silver Spring that we ultimately want them to have. And so we don't want to displace them. We want to make certain that they become a part of this economic development effort in Wheaton. In the White Oak area, we're looking at a very substantial change, a master plan that would encompass a great deal of job placement in the White Oak area. And that's one of the things that have happened in this area, that we have large numbers of cars, traffic, huge amounts of housing in the White Oak area, but we do not have sufficient job placement. I'm a firm believer that we need jobs there. That is to make certain that the people in those areas can in fact remain in the areas and not have to traverse clearly across the county in order to go to job placement areas. We can enhance that area by greater employment and also address the transportation challenges if we're able to ensure that we get more transit in the area as well.
When it comes to economic development and small businesses, what's in the future for smaller businesses?
Well, first of all, my view is that to keep the small business and all the business that you have. You can't grow your businesses if on the one hand you're trying to attract new businesses, but at the same time you're losing existing businesses that are currently in the county. So the first thing that we do is to try to maintain those businesses that are currently in the county. And we also try to enhance their stay here. We've changed a large number of regulatory things in the county to make it much more convenient for people to develop businesses in the county. We have 67 different recommendations that we've implemented that now substantially reduce the cost, the confusion, and all of the bureaucracy that heretofore had hampered many of the businesses in Montgomery County. In addition to that, we're providing mentorship, we're providing financial assistance. We have a small business reserve fund that is working extremely well with some of the local banks in Montgomery County, provide the capital. So we are trying to ensure that we maintain those businesses that are currently in the county.
Education. Maryland schools ranked #1 in the country once again for the 5th consecutive year. Obviously, Montgomery County takes credit that it's one of the best in the state, but still you've mentioned concern about some challenges that are still left within the school system.
Well, there are two that are major. One, we have a significant achievement gap between some of our students in the county. We need to work aggressively to close that gap, to make certain some of the students that are not performing at the level that we want will have an opportunity to do so, and we need to redouble our efforts to make sure we improve that status. Secondly, we have a growing student population in the county. We're growing in excess of 2,000 students per year. That's larger than the 4 or 5 counties around the state combined. That's equivalent to a new high school every year for the last 6 years. We provided a great deal of resources to the county school system in order to accommodate what we consider to be the growth. But when you have growth at that level, 2,000 students per year, going at least 6 or 7 years, it's very difficult to accommodate that. So we're looking to the state to assist in ways that they have not in the past to do what we did in Baltimore, that is to enhance our borrowing capacity through the state so that we will have a greater opportunity to have the resources to respond to the growing challenges here in Montgomery County.
On your fiscal budget for 2014, you added additional funding for English learning for adults. Why was this a priority this year?
Well, it's tied to 2 things. One, we have a large number of people in the county, unfortunately, do not speak English, and we want to make sure that as they move through the system of Montgomery County in terms of programs, services, and greater job opportunities, that I think that speaking English is a key factor in making certain that happen. As people learn English or they adopt more aggressively English language, they're able to engage much more. They become not just workers, but they become employers. They build businesses. They make life much better for everyone in the county. And as a result of that, it enhances our tax base. So it's both a learning experience in and of itself, but more importantly for us, it's also a part of economic growth and development. It produces jobs, enhances our tax base. So we want people to learn English here in Montgomery County. So we're assisting in that endeavor.
One of the campaigns that took place this year was the 100,000 Homes campaign, spearheaded also by Councilmember George Leventhal and yourself, a count and an official count of homeless people living in Montgomery County. What's going to happen as far as recommendations for next year regarding these people? Well,
unfortunately, the resources that we have available cannot accommodate the real growth of homelessness in Montgomery County. And we have to make certain that we can provide additional resources to help in that endeavor. We've made a significant start, and it's a first start. We've made some investments in a variety of places throughout the county to help reduce that amount of homelessness, but we still have a very long ways to go. And we need to redouble our efforts to make sure that we get the resources in place, identify people with holistic approaches so that they are simply not going through the treadmill of homelessness back out on the street, back again to homelessness, but to deal with all the myriad of problems that many of our homeless face today.
Okay, we're going to take another short break, Mr. Leggett, and
Sure.
we'll be right back. Don't go away.
Did you know there are more than 10,000 county government phone numbers? But there's only one number you need to remember for non-emergency calls, 311. MC311 is Montgomery County government's online telephone information system. Need information? Have a problem or complaint? Trying to locate a county government facility? Call 311. The call center is open Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The website is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Ever pull into a parking lot and think, what's up with those pedestrians? Sometimes they seem so oblivious to vehicles. Park, start walking to the store, and wow, those drivers are so aggressive. They act like the lot is theirs. It's no wonder that nearly 1/3 of pedestrian collisions occur in parking lots, and a significant number cause severe injuries. Avoid becoming a statistic. Drivers, don't run over people. Pedestrians, don't get run over. It's that simple. Heads up in parking lots.
I'm Sheriff Darren Popkin.
I'm Police Chief Tom Manger.
Together with our partner Montgomery County law enforcement chiefs,
We're urging you to drive phone-free.
Since 2010, it's been against the law to use a handheld cell phone while driving.
Previously, we had to witness another driving offense prior to a driver being pulled over.
Now, there's a new law in effect.
We'll be ticketing for the sole offense of using a handheld cell phone while driving.
One text or call can wreck it all.
It's Maryland law.
Hang up and drive.
Montgomery County 911.
I just saw a car crash.
If you ever have an emergency, be glad you're in Montgomery County. Thanks to the ambulance transport law, the county has more money to cut response times. Buy new ambulances and fire engines, and hire more paramedics and firefighters. In an emergency, don't ever hesitate to call 911. If you live in Montgomery County, you will never get a bill or pay a dime. Hopefully, you'll never need to call Montgomery County Fire and Rescue, but if you do, we're there for you.
Welcome back to this special edition of 101 with the County Executive, Ike Leggett. And this is the last segment. Oh my God, we have so much to cover. I don't know how we're going to do it. But let's talk about the fact that you pretty much seal the deal with a piece of legislation that made national headlines. It was the living wage that was signed here in Montgomery County.
In fact, it was international headlines. A few days after we signed it in Montgomery County, I was at the UN for a conference where I was speaking, and one of the first questions that people asked me was about the living wage in Montgomery County. In fact, it was just not a national but an international trend. There was a healthy debate about it. I think most people agree that we should increase the living wage. I think the real debate was about how much, how fast, or how soon it should occur, and that there was some debate about that aspect of it. But I don't think there was a fundamental debate, even among many of our businesses, whether or not we should increase it. My view was that it should have been in a lower, slower pace, but I think the legislation that ultimately passed was one that we can live with. I supported the increase last year at the statewide level for an increase in the minimum wage, and unfortunately that did not pass. But I think given where we stand today, I believe very strongly that we should have passed it. I think that Montgomery County and the Washington metropolitan area, you probably need to have a slightly higher wage than maybe some of the other areas throughout the state. But I believe that it was the right thing to do. Even though it was at a slightly different pace and a time frame and amount than I originally had called for. But ultimately, I think this is good legislation that will help our county and help the region.
$11.50 by 2017.
That's correct.
And some people say it's too much. Some people say it's not enough.
That's correct, and that debate will go on for a while, and I think there are some strong arguments on both sides of that. But I think when you look at it from the standpoint of this county, how much it costs to live in this county, I think that you look at what that actually brings, and that really only brings keeps the wages at a very low level, and you average it out for 40 hours per week for an entire year. That is still rather modest, even in Montgomery County.
The Affordable Care Act enrollment began back in October 1st, and you launched a campaign with several partners from the nonprofit sector, asking county residents that are eligible to enroll, with a goal of over 50,000 potential enrollees. Where are we today?
Well, we still have a ways to go, and it's a result of the technology. I think the program is solid. I think it's something that people should do. It's the law. It helps all of us to get people engaged, to make certain that they have affordable health care. But we've had some challenges, at least the government has some challenges. It's not something that we operate here locally per se. We're assisting at the state and the federal government to enhance the awareness of the program and to make certain that we can contribute as much as possible to make sure that as many people within the deadline are in fact registered. But I would have to say that clearly there's great disappointment about the technology and the rollout of the program from the federal level.
Recycling. This year you announced a very ambitious goal of 70% of recycling by 2020. Doable in Montgomery County?
Well, I announced years ago when I was a council member a goal of 50%, and everyone said that that was not doable. You know, not in our lifetime with a large community like Montgomery County could achieve such a level. We've exceeded that. We're close to 60% now, and so the goal now is 70% by the year 2020. I believe that we can reach that goal, but we cannot do it unless we have the full cooperation and participation, especially from our business sector, as well as multifamily homes. Residential, single-family residential communities are doing extremely well. But the challenge for us is in businesses as well as multifamily units. If we're able to bring that portion in line with anywhere near the rest of the county, we would exceed 70% in my opinion.
All right, so 2013 is done. 2014 is around the corner. You're already working on the FY15 budget that
right.
will be officially released on March 15th.
Well, some say the budget is working on me, but
That could be very true.
Yeah.
So just give us a little bit of a preview. What's going on behind the scenes right now, and what can be expected?
Well, first of all, I think our position as we transition to 2014 is probably much better than we've had in the last few years, because our tax revenues are at least meeting the projections that we've had in Montgomery County. Our projected revenue of 8.1% reserve would be the highest in the history of the county. We've maintained our AAA bond ratings. So I think that we're in a much better position, but we cannot take our eyes off the ball here, because whatever happens in Washington, what happens at the state level, will have a direct impact on what is happening here in Montgomery County. I want us to emerge out of this challenge in a very predictable and a much more careful way, and not to rush to assume that we've resolved every challenge that is out there, but it's much better. So I anticipate that we will at least have what I consider to be the same level budget, that is to maintain the resources, programs, and services that we already have. And that there will not be major changes from our earlier predictions and projections about revenue and the programs that currently exist in the county. But it will be a challenge, because when people see that there have been improvements, there's always a rush now to try to fill every cut that we made in the last few years, to make certain that every program that we eliminated are back into the county's budget. We're not going to do that. We simply cannot go back to the time of when we were spending in an unsustainable way, and when we did not have the resources to maintain ongoing programs and services. We're going to do this much more carefully, and to roll these things out in a way that can be sustainable over the long period.
All right, that sounds good, but what's your vision for 2014?
Well, I was just going back to that portion. The vision clearly is to enhance a greater level of affordable housing. Secondly, to take the transportation dollars that we have, to expand those dollars to even greater programs, to ensure that we make certain that the biotechnology that we've started, we enhance that as well. And to enhance and to make certain that the positions that we started with the master plan, we go forward with. Seneca, the Life Science Center in the east portion of the county, all of those things I think we can make sure that we do much better. And then of course we have to close that achievement gap. I think that we have to make certain that we provide a holistic approach for students to do that as well. And of course to continue the regulatory reforms that we've made in the areas of economic development. That's a pretty ambitious agenda, and I think that we can continue to make significant improvement in those areas.
All right, so I'm going to land a very difficult question right now. Which
Sure.
was your best memory of 2013 as county executive?
The best memory of 2013 county executive, I think, was the revenue projections that we now see that are much more favorable for the county. I think that's the best memory, to see those numbers and to see that not only we met our projection, that we were running slightly ahead of them.
All right, well, thank you very much for sharing 2013 again with us. And this is our last time. Happy holidays for you, Mr. Leggett. And definitely we'll see you again in 2014.
Yeah, thank you.
And for you watching, always remember, any information, do visit our website, montgomerycountymd.gov. I'm Lorna Virgili, and thank you for watching.